So you want to know the terror that lies within deep space? Well then journey to the place where no one can hear you scream. With Ridley Scott's terrifying classic, Alien. When the commercial towing vessel Nostromo intercepts a signal of unknown origin, its crew is awakened from hypersleep, far ahead of reaching Earth. Forced to investigate, the crew led by Captain Dallas descend to the volatile planet below, only to discover a derelict spacecraft. However, when they move into the depths of this alien craft, they find things unsettling and astonishing, shortly before First Officer Kane is attacked by an alien organism. Breaking quarantine, Medical Officer Ash examines the almost parasitic alien, which is attached itself to Kane, and is fascinated by its biology. When the organism dies off and Kane is revived, the absolute worst shocks them all when another alien bursts through Kane's chest, creating a new fear to terrorize them all. Now, as this xenomorph grows into a terrifying monster, the dwindling crew attempt to hunt it down to ensure their survival, but realize just how expendable they are when further motives are uncovered in the darkest depths of space. So being released in United States cinemas on May 25th, 1979, and in September of that year in the United Kingdom, the film Alien had a very interesting set of circumstances leading to what it eventually became, and pretty much started off with the friendship and partnership of screenwriters Dan O'Bannon and Ron Shusett, who really kind of came together after Shusett had gained the rights to the Philip K. Dick novel, We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, which eventually became the film Total Recall, with O'Bannon and Shusett actually being part of the screenwriting team to eventually get that film to the screen. Dan O'Bannon had previously worked on John Carpenter's Dark Star, which ended up being a very funny, farcical, very low budget type of affair that kind of started as a student film, but kind of grew out of control from that. And it was really kind of thing that O'Bannon wasn't entirely satisfied with how things came about. I really wanted to kind of rework his idea into a straight up serious horror film, and he got kind of stuck on ideas here and there all over the place over the next couple of years. And during that time he ended up working on the sort of doomed project of Jodorowsky's Dune after he gained the rights, and had people working on for months on end trying to come up with all this fantastic concept art, all these different ideas, and ultimately it didn't end up going anywhere. And they eventually got these two guys back together to kind of stir the pot a little bit about ideas that they can stir up and kind of get something going for themselves, just kind of get their reputations going, their careers going, get something planted firmly in the ground after having a lot of stuff that just didn't quite go all the way for themselves. And just these two guys really kind of developed the entire idea for this through many different drafts of scripts and everything, and working first off trying to target Roger Corman to take on this film, but then things started kind of developing a little bit more, where you gotta get the guys at Brandywine, and you got producers of David Giler and Gordon Carroll and Walter Hill involved with the film, where things started to get more traction, they started to get more momentum, started getting things a little bit more linked up with 20th Century Fox, and things just started growing and developing from there. And there was a lot of different interesting things where the guys at Brandywine were trying to refashion the screenplay in a certain way and putting in draft after draft that really wasn't working all that well, aside from a few little elements that they do kind of show up in the final film, such as the entire idea of there being a sort of a spy in the midst of the crew and everything, in terms of the character of Ash being a droid, a robot of sorts. So that was the one little thing that Ron Shusett really kind of gives credit to that. But everything else they tried to do with all these rewrites and everything really just didn't aid the idea. It really kind of worsened the film idea overall. But eventually things just started getting the right traction, started getting the right direction, started targeting the right directors, and trying to get all the ideas called together to really kind of make this the film that it really needed to be, that so many people, including like cast member Tom Skerritt, saw in the script that this deserved something that had the appropriate budget to really realize what they could ultimately do for the whole film, realize the potential it had. And once they got Ridley Scott involved with this film, after he'd only done many commercials, and also the film The Duelists, when Ridley Scott got involved, that's when everything really started to terribly take off with Alien overall, where he started getting all the ideas, started getting all the heightening of the budget and the production quality and all this type of stuff. Just take this sort of B-movie idea of an alien running around killing people in a sort of almost monster in a haunted house deal, and just utilize an A-list budget, an A-grade budget, to really kind of elevate the film to another level. And just all these little things that came into play here, because when Dan O'Bannon was working on Jodorowsky's Dune, he ended up getting a really good taste of H.R. Giger's style, his sort of artistic sensibilities, and the terribly unique, sleek, sexy, morbid, intriguing vision this guy had. And as soon as everyone started looking at the work he had done, just his own art and everything, it just absolutely clicked that this was absolutely the guy. You realize such a uniquely alien production design for this film, and Ridley Scott knew it from the second he saw it. And so all these things really started to develop so much for Alien to really become what it ended up being. And there's so many things that just go into that overall, especially with Ridley Scott very much being inspired by what Star Wars did, having this sort of used universe where not everything's so sleek and polished and everything. It seemed like a very lived in, tangible, sort of industrialized universe, and he really wanted to capture that so much with this film that it just aided the overall tone, the overall style of everything. It kind of informed every little detail of where the story was going to go, how the characters were designed and everything. That it just approached the film in a very interesting way that just, again, revolutionized the genre, did things more, push science fiction further, push horror in different directions, that you could take something, again, like what Roger Corman had been doing for years and years and years, doing all these little low-budget B-movies, but give it a A-list treatment, give it the budget it needed, give it the production value needed, so much so like what Steven Spielberg did with Jaws, did the same thing here with taking, again, a lot of inspiration from that, from how he designed the terror of that film from happenstance because the shark didn't work, but he still used that whole thing of just not showing the creatures so much, that just using the suspense, the suggestion, the implications, using very artistic sensibilities to drive the horror of the film forward. It did so many interesting things to just take a little bit of inspiration from here and there and call it together to create such a very fascinating and absolutely terrifying horror film here. And so much of this film just aids from the mood it sets from the very beginning, because this is a very slow burn horror film that is very much an immersive experience. Because up until a few years ago, when I finally did see Alien theatrically and decided that I'm going into this film to be fully immersed into every second, every bit of this film, it wasn't until that moment where I could just be so enveloped in the film fully that I truly appreciated everything Ridley Scott really put together in this film. And it's just so interesting what he does with the atmosphere, the tone of Alien, because you've never seen space so much like this. Because a lot of times you see a lot of the action adventure stuff, the big space opera type of stuff. You never see so much of space seeming so absolutely desolate and isolated. This sense of just atmosphere of the unknown in this film, that every second is spent in this bleak, vast emptiness of space where you just know this little ship, the Nostromo, just inching along a little bit at a time. There's not any hyperdrive, there's no light speed or anything. This is very realistic, very tangible, again, sort of future where things are not so fantastic or whatnot. This is very much very interesting type of way to present everything, where just like these people are absolutely isolated in the darkest sectors of space. That just creates such a great atmosphere, just the darkness, the isolation of it all, just everything that is put into that with the visuals of the film, the music that you get from Jerry Goldsmith, so many of the things he just does to craft those long sequences, long slow burn, slow build up, just drawing things out to really kind of soak you into the moment, soak you into what this film is slowly, gradually developing itself towards. There's such a great deliberate pacing with this film that it just knows exactly what beat it wants to hit, how long to drag things out, how much to really just delve you into the atmosphere it is developing throughout the entire runtime of this movie, and how to elevate things when it needs to, and just create so many great interesting type of qualities with how it's going to scare you, how it's going to build that type of mood that it has overall. I just love it early on because you get into the derelict spaceship and you just have that great moments in the whole thing where, especially when like Kane gets hit with a face hugger and just slam cut to the outside of the derelict, you just feel this sense of separation between the people who are still on the Nostromo and the people inside the derelict. It just has this great sense of vastness, this great sense again of isolation, that there is this terror going on that the other people are not aware of. So it's just like so many things that just how the thing is crafted to take a very sharp, quick moment like that and just pull it back to see the scope of it all. It's a very interesting thing how this film goes from such a wide scope for everything that it does early on, with seeing the big scale of this derelict spaceship and all the vastness of space, and just continually just shrink it down, narrow it down to this very intimate terror that is focusing itself on more and more as the film progresses. And it's just great to experience the sort of way this film just draws you into this unnerving, foreboding sense of unease that it has. Just like every single moment just seems like there's something sinister, there's something, again, foreboding about everything that's kind of developing from one moment to the next. There's just so many little things that this film just draws you into, to just the fact that you just can't predict. If you're sitting down watching Alien for the first time, you have absolutely no idea where this film's going from beat to beat. It has so many turns that you just cannot see going. Just like right from the beginning of the film, you don't expect to see this derelict spacecraft. Then you see the facehugger, and that's something different. Then this thing moves into the next thing, and then you get the chest burster and everything. So it's like just one thing on top of another, just smacking you in the face from one turn to the next that you're not expecting what the heck is going on. Because at this point in time, who'd ever seen a film like this? Something that was done this well, but also with so many of these interesting little turns, how this organism just implants something in your body, gestates in there, and just bursts out, and then turns into a 7-foot tall monster. It's just like every single turn this film takes to really kind of just keep you on the edge, just keep you shocked and startled in certain moments, but in the best way possible. Not with jump scares, but just its reveals, how it just turns things from one moment to the next, one plot turn to the next. It just creates such a great edgy type of feeling for the film that just like you just can't predict. You sitting down to watch this for the first time, there's just no way you can see where this film's going from one turn to the next. And that's such a fantastic thing from the screenwriting of this film that just like comes up so many great ideas and just lulls you into this sort of almost false sense of security at certain moments where you think some things are just kind of at ease, but you know there's another shoe that's going to drop, there's something else that's going to happen, you have no idea what it's going to be. So it's like, it's just all these interesting ideas that just don't show their hand at all. It's just like, it just hits you, just keeps coming at you, just keeps developing something interesting and keeping the film ahead of the viewer. And just like every single moment that they get this stuff going on in the film, it's just really just immensely interesting overall, just how they created all these ideas and came together with such fascinating, interesting little bits here and there. I think it's just a very exceptionally well written film with simple concepts that still startle and fascinate you overall. And of course, the cinematography from director of photography Derek Van Lint is absolutely fantastic type of stuff, because we all know that Ridley Scott films always have such stunning visuals, and Alien is just an absolute feast for the eyes, especially if you're watching it on the Blu-ray, which has a fantastically sharp, immaculate transfer. this film just pops like hell and looks so absolutely stunning, because it's amazing watching this film and just seeing how much purpose there is behind every single shot that is set up in this film. Just everything, it's just so exquisitely put together, with every single shot that you do, with every shaft of light, every bit of shadow they want to lay in the frame, everything they put together with the cinematography just has such a gorgeous stroke to it, and just so much purpose and deliberateness behind how they shoot every single scene. That just like, there are horror films that just don't go this far to look this damn good, but Ridley Scott is such an amazing visualist that he just paints so very well with whatever cinematographer he's using. There's always such a great vibrance to his images, even if you are talking about a horror film that uses a lot of high contrast type of stuff to really kind of paint a picture that is so terrifying, but has so much great beauty to it as well. Just like, so many of the shots in this film just absolutely burst out, and especially when you have the scene where Brett, Harry Dean Stanton's character, is going after the cat Jones, and he goes in this whole room that just looks absolutely totally bronze. It just absolutely stunning type of stuff. So much of that enveloping atmosphere of Alien is due to such a great cinematography that it has here, with every little thing that they put together to create that mood, create all that ambiance that the film has, and just that terrifying feeling of the darkness and the light and everything that goes together. Everything that they do is just absolutely remarkable type of work that just, again, looks like absolute art on the screen. And even when they kind of get a little further into the film, where things start to get a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more destabilized, after Dallas bites it and all these other things start to fall apart, a little bit more panicked and everything, you can start seeing that they're using a little bit more handheld camera work to give it a little bit of sense of unease, especially when things start going into where Ash goes haywire and everything. It just starts to build and destabilize the visuals of the film. So it's like a very deliberate choice to really kind of have a lot of still images, really kind of graceful, elegant movement throughout the whole film, and then slowly start to kind of make it a little bit more chaotic. So it's like very deliberate, smart choices that just really kind of project onto the viewer of the film to just give you that sense of the film, how it's progressing, how it is, again, destabilizing characters and the situation overall, how it is becoming more perilous in a certain way, more terrifying in a certain way. But it's still a great mix of all these different things to just know exactly what type of camera movement to use at certain points, and everything else that just creates so many great movements and so much great atmosphere in this film. I can just go on about this cinematography forever, because it's just absolutely immaculate type of stuff, and to see it in HD was such a fantastic transfer from Fox. It just works so exquisitely well, just one of the best transfers I have ever seen. And just like so many of the different things that this film just employs, especially with all its concepts, with the design of the film, all the effects work that it used, with stuff like conceptual artist Ron Cobb just contributing so many great things, alongside all the fantastic unique stuff Giger put together. It's just such a great depth of detail this film uses, with all its very elaborate and large sets, and also very claustrophobic sets, that they really kind of designed the entire sets of the Nostromo to be very claustrophobic and very absorbing as well for the actors, for the crew, that everyone kind of had to live and work in this type of very tight environment to kind of create that feeling for the actors, create that sense of genuine authenticness for the characters, to delve further into their characters and get into the mood of the film more, just get into that feeling for it, just envelop them into what they were doing in this film and the environment that they were going to inhabit. And there's just such a great depth of quality and imagination with the film to simply delve you deeper into such a mysterious, terrifying universe here. With when you get into the chamber with the space jockey, it just stirs up so much imagination about things, especially before you ever saw Prometheus. But taking the film as its own, with all these detailed, amazing pieces of production work, all the sets, all these things that come together so well, just immerses you so deeply into the fiber and the tone, the atmosphere of this film, that if it was a cheaper film, so many things would not come off as very impressive. But because you had the vision, you had so much amazing talent, and you had the budget to support the vision overall, so much of the stuff comes off as such a large scale, highly budgeted film that creates such an immense, fascinating universe to inhabit this. There's so much of that stuff, just the vision on display, and having so many fantastic, amazing artists at hand, especially H.R. Giger creating, again, one of the most iconic creatures in the history of cinema here. When you saw this in 1979, if you were there, this was utterly unique. This was entirely alien. No one had ever seen anything that resembled anything this fascinatingly original in a certain way, because I mean, you just gotten so used to like what it was like in the 50s. You had all these kind of pulpy type of science fiction films with giant insects and stuff, or just some guy in a rubber suit that didn't look very impressive. This is just something that just goes all out. It just has such a wildly bizarre type of imagination attached to it, and just this guy who just created so much fantastic art and just had an interesting personality to himself overall. It's very much of a shame that he did pass away a couple of years ago, but left us a fantastic legacy with his art and what he contributed to the history of cinema. But one thing that is utterly invaluable to the merit of a good, very effective horror film is having good characters to draw upon. That you have to have characters you really care about for the terror to really take hold and have it be important, to have an impact on the audience, to give characters that are dimensional, that have a realistic sensibility about them. That's entirely what the screenwriters of the film and Ridley Scott really wanted to go for here, to create very sort of blue-collar type of characters, these space truckers of sorts, to really just give these people a very relatable quality in a very science fiction setting, and just like so many natural dynamics and conflicts between all these characters, just how everything just bounces off everyone, all the chemistry that the cast really has, and how they really wrote this film in a unisex type of way where any of the characters could have been interchanged for either gender. It's a very interesting approach that they didn't write the thing as this character is specifically female. We're going to write this character as a female, give this character a female sensibility. It's just like these characters are written neutral, and these attributes can be interchanged and they can be applied to different genders, and how people can interpret them in different ways depending on whether it's an actress or an actor, woman or male. Interpreting this character is a very interesting approach that really just does, again, aid the film, where it's like it doesn't really matter that much what the gender is. It's about what the actors bring to the roles, and they put together such a fantastically, absolutely talented cast for this film. Starting out with Tom Skerritt, who I absolutely love in everything I see him in. This guy just does such a great, reliable job in every single role that he puts on, and he was such a, again, great believer in the potential of what this script was, that he wasn't originally interested when they had a much lower budget attached to it, and this was before they had Ridley Scott. But once they actually got everything kind of a little bit more further along with the conceptualization, the visualization, and sort of what the potential of the film could become, Tom Skerritt entirely signed up for the film. And he does play Dallas in a very interesting, sort of casual, laid-back type of fashion. And he's just like this guy who almost seems like he just wants to kind of concede responsibility in a certain way. He gets put in this situation that's well beyond his capabilities. He just doesn't want to have to deal with it. He just wants to push the responsibility out of his reach and just have to lay back and where the regulations are, or what this, whatever it is, to really kind of just not have to be the guy responsible for whatever's going on here when things get a little bit too far out of control for him. And even when he does decide to go into the ventilation shafts and hunt down the xenomorph before he really knows what he's getting into, he is terrified. He's in there trying to keep a hold of himself without going off the deep end. It's a very interesting type of quality where he's not this character that's utterly confident. He's terrified of what the situation is, but he's going to at least take that much responsibility on that he is the captain. He's not going to put someone else in danger when he feels like he really should be the guy to take on that responsibility, because maybe it is kind of sinking into him that he forced them to break the quarantine and whatnot, and maybe he's feeling a little bit like,
I brought this thing into the whole ship. I should do something about it personally. So it's like there is still at least a sense of responsibility that he's trying to take for things. But just overall, it's very interesting what Tom Skerritt does with his character to give him a very interesting sensibility about how he approaches things, and especially the conflicts he does have with Ripley, who is much more of a tougher, assertive type of character. But overall, I think Tom Skerritt does a very good job in this film. And of course, Sigourney Weaver overall just has became a star off of this film, and it's easy to see why, because of all the characters that are presented here, she is the one that has the most strong sense of accountability, so much of a sense of conviction to her that she does stand up for what she believes. She doesn't fall into line just because Dallas tells her to open up the hatch. And so it's like she has a sense of responsibility. She's going to follow what she believes is best for herself, for the ship, the rest of the crew and everything. So there's always this sense that she is trying to hold things together, but there is certain moments in the film where she starts to lose it a little bit. She does get a little bit panicked. She gets terrified. Gets stressed to the point where she's just almost falling apart in the film, but she's still able, as the film progresses, to keep herself put together and everything, to kind of push herself through these situations where she is absolutely terrified, but she's able to hold herself together enough to find her way out of these terrifying, horrifying situations. So it's like, absolutely, Sigourney Weaver had every sense of talent that you needed for this character, and really Scott pretty much knew right from the moment he saw her that she just had everything that was needed for this character. Just so much of a great thing. Sigourney Weaver, fantastic talent, just proves that this film holds up so much after all these years. Her performance is still top quality in this film overall. And I love Yaphet Kotto. I love Harry Dean Stanton. These two guys are absolutely fantastic talents. And again, they have such a great dynamic, great chemistry overall, being these sort of grunt workers inside the Nostromo, and they just have a great sense of humor about them, with character Parker, portrayed by Yaphet Kotto, just having a bit of a cynical type of feel to him, and Harry Dean just having a great sense of wit and charm to him. Just like these two guys work off so well, and just like Yaphet Kotto just becomes more and more of a badass as this film goes along, and just a great thing behind the scenes where Yaphet would kind of every single day they come on set and he'd be like harassing Ridley Scott, saying, "Today I'm going to kill that alien. I'm going to kill the alien. Alien going to kill me. I'm going to kill it," and stuff. And even as the film progressed, he was goading Sigourney Weaver, pushing her to kind of like break in certain moments, to just kind of like just drive further out those moments of just conviction, to just kind of make it, to sell the moments more and everything. Just like this guy, a bit of an agitator on set, but it really kind of aided the film so much with just the attitude of this character, all the stuff he puts together. This makes him a very entertaining type of person. And even Veronica Cartwright was very interesting with this film, where she originally auditioned for the role of Ripley and didn't know until she was going to do the fittings for the film, the costume design and everything, that she was cast in the role of Lambert. And she was a little bit uncertain about the character because she was a little concerned about how much weeping the character did throughout the whole film, but pretty much was convinced that she was sort of the conduit for the audience's hysterics, their fear, all this type of stuff, and she does a fantastic job at it. Just another really solid talent that just brings forth very strong dimensional qualities in her character. And there's so many good things with this whole cast, including you got like John Hurt, who doesn't get as much of the other characters because obviously he doesn't last through more than half the film really, but what he brings is still a very solid type of sensibility with his character, and he's such a fantastic actor as well. He's always done such fantastic work throughout his career. But one of the guys who really just has so much to work with here is Ian Holm as Ash, because this film has such that great rewatchability with his character that you don't know through most of the film that he's an android, he's a robot and everything. And once that gets revealed, you can look back on the rest of his performance and really kind of look at it with more informed eyes and see exactly what he's been doing this whole time, that he's aware of these orders and everything from very early on. And just like how this character, how his performance comes together in this film, just has a very interesting ability to see a sort of duplicity in his performance that like when you're having the characters sitting at that dinner table right before the chest burster happens, you just have the character of Ash there not having a sense of concern really. He's just watching him with very strong, sharp eyes, observing him like he's analyzing him in a laboratory. It is very interesting, this sort of suspicious, shifty-eyed quality that he has in various moments of the film, this sort of cold calmness that he has in certain moments where he's very analytical, very clinical in a certain way, just has this slightly offbeat feel to him, and maybe you don't really catch it the first time you watch the film, but on repeat viewings it all just kind of comes together, and just see the overall package that you put together for the character of Ash here, coming up to the fantastic moment where he does go haywire, and he does explain this sort of fascination that he has with the alien organism overall, that whole thing of being a perfect organism, that he admires its purity and everything. It's just a very chilling sensibility about it, and just like, I can't lie about your chances, but you have my sympathies. So it's like, it's just a great performance from him, just taking all the elements that he knew this character was going to have and wrap together very intriguing elements to it, just adding all these little aspects to the character that just seem a little quirky or whatnot, a little strange a little bit, and just all these subtle little things. It's such a fantastic performance from an incredibly good actor here that just adds something more to the script, more to the film overall, because again, this character wasn't a robot in the Ronald Shusett, Dan O'Bannon version. I guess Walter Hill or whatnot really kind of added that element into the script, and definitely added something more interesting to the whole thing. That's not, it adds a further depth and layer to why there is that sort of contract with everyone who works on the ship and everything, that if they do intercept a signal, they are required by law to check it out. That is sort of, again, that he seems to know so much more about this organism than what he'd have the ability to research with the time he's had with it. It just like does bring up that idea that they had encountered it before at some point and just need to explore it further to get more information about it. That crew expendable, all their priorities rescinded, bring back the organism was number one priority. So it's like, this is not something they come up with on the spur of the moment. This is something that's been laid in there for a long time, and just like creates a further deeper element to the whole thing. I think they did such an amazing job casting this film so absolutely perfectly that, again, you don't care about the characters. Who cares how much terror they're going through? But when you get good characters and such great performances, you really begin to care for these characters, and you're terrified when these things begin to befall them. And one thing that is an absolute pleasure with this film is yet another fantastic Jerry Goldsmith score. And there were some problems that Goldsmith had with how the score was used in certain places, and how some of his tracks got swapped out for some stuff that was not composed by him. But regardless of whatever his gripes were with how his score was utilized, he still composed some fantastically, hauntingly beautiful type of work, because it just has a great melodic feel to it, which is not something you always considered to be in line with horror films. Certain ones do use that, but overall there's a very interesting, different type of feel this film goes for. It does accentuate a little bit of that desolate isolation in a certain way, and has an elegant beauty about it, but there's so much great ambiance with what he composes, with so much of the score here, just creating so much great stuff with the light strings that he has to pull on to just create this, again, fascinating type of atmosphere that he has to put together so much throughout the whole film. But when the terror really starts to build in this film, he uses those strings to kind of build up the suspense, and then he brings in some horn sections to really kind of capitalize on it so much, to really kind of bring the payoff, bring more of the terror to the forefront, and just gets your heart racing, gets you on the edge of your seat and everything. Just what Jerry Goldsmith just put together with so much of what this film had to offer, with that score that he put together here, just creates such an overall fantastic sonic experience, mixed in with such a fantastic sound design as well, that you just get so many interesting things, especially when you get down on the planet there and the howling winds, the volatile atmosphere creates an interesting sound design when you're inside the Nostromo, where you get this sort of slow pulsating sound of the wind going against the hull and everything. It creates a very, just another sense of foreboding in the film, and just so many good little subtle elements, and especially when you get into the shrieking alien sound effects. They just crawl up your skin and everything, up your spine. It just, shrieks and everything are just absolutely just terrifying in a certain way. Just so many of the elements that use with sound, with the music that is composed so beautifully, and just these startling and very atmospheric ambiance they put together here. Is such a fascinating sonic experience that's put together here. I just can't imagine this film without that fantastic score and so many of these iconic sort of sound effects from the alien, the xenomorph. It's so much good stuff here. And talking about the xenomorph itself, like I mentioned earlier, there is a very interesting, sparse presentation of it. Even when it is fully grown, you only see it in very brief moments. There's a few shots that last maybe a second or two, or just very brief glimpses at it, but you somehow get an overall sense of it regardless of that. And just such a great marriage of how the film is so expertly edited in a certain way. Just again, it starts off with such a great slow build and just progresses to such great tight moments in the film that just shriek out at you from nowhere, or just builds up such great suspense. The editing in this film just creates that overall atmosphere and just exposes the creature just enough, and is lit and shot the right way to just have everything come together and just have a fantastic, interesting performer in that suit. This tall, lanky guy who just about 7 feet tall or so, just create this figure that just is so unique of a silhouette and everything to just come out in the film and just create this overall sense of creepiness, this unhuman type of feel of it. Even that one shot where it's going after the character of Lambert, where it just feels like it's floating across the room. These moments where it just adds in those a little bit more inhuman qualities while still having some human aspects to its design. It's a very just unsettling design and presentation of this alien character, as so much good stuff with the design of it, the presentation, the performance, overall, everything they did with every aspect, from the design all the way to the execution of the editing, is just absolutely inspired. Especially when you have, again, Dallas in that ventilation shaft, and you just have that motion detector building to the suspense. You don't need to show the creature. You just have this little blip and this little sound effect just building that up more and more. It's just very, very exceptionally inspired type of stuff to just have the film just use all these different aspects to imply the presence of the creature. It's such great stuff overall. And just this film, when you get fully immersed into the atmosphere that it has, the mood that it has, everything it has to offer here. If you're going into the film, it's not something you can just watch passively on some day. This is a film that requires your full immersion and attention. Turn your phone off, turn all this stuff off, turn the lights down, turn up the surround sound, get fully into the film. It has such a great thing to offer you, and can still fucking terrify you. It's still such a chilling film that creates, with every element that it has, with the great scope of its design, the fantastic cinematography, the clever writing that it has, the great cast offered, and of course, the immense talent of Ridley Scott overall, bring the whole package together with such great vision and such great ambition overall. He saw the script, saw the potential of it, and pushed to make sure that this film had the resources it needed to reach the potential it knew it could have. And that's such a fantastic thing for someone like Ridley Scott, who has that sensibility, that has that vision, has that great sense of everything as a filmmaker, a visualist, everything. You can see a good concept and ride that thing fully to a great classic installment in cinema. So you guys have kind of bugged me for a while to do a little bit of the Alien franchise, and I just had to get Alien done for this Halloween season. And you might be asking for Aliens and Alien 3 in quick turnaround, but give us some time, guys. I got a lot of things I want to get to. We'll see where things land, but just Alien itself, until you actually just, again, envelop yourself in this film fully, you just do not know what the potential it has to really kind of just scare the crap out of you. It just has so much good stuff. I could go on about it for eons and eons, but I've gone about it well enough, and I've gone past about 3 a.m. shooting this video, so I gotta get some sleep, guys. But regards to that, late nights, spooky stuff, watching this film at midnight, that's the way to fucking do it. So, Alien, your comments below, guys. What is your favorite moment of Alien? What is the moment that just does it for you overall? What's the moment that just strikes out at you? Whether it's the terrifying stuff, whether it's the mysterious stuff, whatever it is, give me the moment that works the best for you. And it's like, I watched the theatrical and director's cut in this film, and I did see the director's cut back in 2003 theatrically, but I didn't get into it as much as I did a few years ago when I saw the theatrical cut in a re-release. But it's kind of interesting seeing the director's cut and then going back to the theatrical, because there's a few moments I do miss, like the moment where the character of Lambert slaps the character of Ripley right in the face after they bring Kane back on board, and she slaps her for almost leaving them out in quarantine. I love that moment, and it's a fantastic shot where, again, you got the character of Brett going into that sort of almost Hellraiser-like area of the ship and everything, looking for Jones the cat, and they got this shot, and it's just absolutely brilliant. That if you're watching the film for the first time, watching the director's cut after never seeing the film in any form whatsoever, before they have the reveal of the full-grown xenomorph, they got this shot of it right there in front of your face, and you wouldn't even know what the fuck it is if you've never seen the xenomorph before, if you've never seen the film before. I love that fucking shot. And of course, the director's cut does add in that sort of cocoon sequence that was so rumored for so long, and obviously doesn't really fit in the continuity of the franchise with how the xenomorph species kind of propagates and everything, with the eggs and everything after aliens introduced the queen. But it's still an interesting sequence, but I can definitely see why Ridley cut that sequence out, because it does, when you're trying to build up to that third act, that sort of big, chaotic, climatic sort of moment where the ship is going to be blown up, it kills the fucking pacing for like a minute and a half or whatnot. But it's still a terrifying sequence, seeing all these characters being mutated into eggs and everything. Ugh. But in regards to that, if you do have a preference between the two different cuts, definitely throw that in the comments below too. So, from a film that cost about $10 million to make, it ended up grossing between like $100 and $200 million, depending on what source you look at. But regardless of that, immensely successful, and was one of Ridley Scott's only hits for like the next decade. A lot of the other films to be made throughout the 80s kind of bombed until he hit The Fantastic Black Rain, which I have the poster of over there, and I love the fuck out of it. I also love my Blade Runner poster in front of me too. So regardless of that, it was a massive success for Ridley Scott, and really fueled him for the next decade to keep going through and having a name in the industry, regardless of whether his box office successes really came to him or not. But regardless of that, thumbs up, guys, if you enjoyed all I've had to offer here about this fantastic film. I definitely enjoy you guys sharing the links around your social media accounts, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or wherever you want to go. Definitely enjoy getting that. Definitely get more people involved if you want to get people interested in what I have here. I definitely appreciate that. And of course, there's the Patreon campaign that I'm trying to get some traction going on. So if you guys are interested in even contributing $1 a month, there's something exclusive for you guys. So hit up that link below, check it out, see what you want to do there. And once that starts getting a little traction there, you'll definitely get some fantastic exclusive type of stuff that I definitely have to offer you guys. So thank you very much, and there's a lot more to come in Forever Horror Month, so stick around, guys. We're gonna be wrapping up soon, but it's not gonna be a week ending at all. So thanks, guys, take care, bye bye.